and welcome to the second episode of the Alpha Sci-Fi official podcast, the Outcast. I'm your host, James Campbell, and with me today I have two others. My Imperial Advisor, Wesley.
Hello.
Say hello, Wes.
How you doing, everybody?
And Cyril Fote.
Hey, we're a small group today.
Yeah,
Just three of us. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we're a few men down because of some scheduling conflicts. We're recording a day after we did the first one, so yeah, we had
actually,
a few people
it's
not
over a week later.
Well, sure, but
you know,
we're recording on
that.
Saturday. We're recording on Saturday rather than Friday like we did last time. So we had some people at work and all that other good stuff. But you don't want to hear that. You want to hear about us talking about random nerdy things like we were wont to do.
No, they probably don't even want to hear about that.
You're probably right, but we're
still
going to
talk
this
about
anyway.
it.
Exactly. Yeah. So first up on the docket is something near and dear to my heart: cartoons. I'm sure I speak for everyone that cartoons are something that I still enjoy as a 23-year-old man.
Yeah. Just for the record, today, if you're wondering, it's because we had trouble coming up with topics.
Well,
not really.
You're gonna spoil it.
I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things where we're all okay with talking about that, so we didn't really have all that trouble coming up with a topic. Just we want to say that to say some pride.
There wasn't anything better to talk about.
I mean, I could sit here and talk about video games again for an hour, but we did that last week. Time. I mean, I want to try to vary it up a little bit.
Oh, yes.
At least every so
all right,
often. So cartoons. Yeah. First, I guess we'll start with Wes. What do you still watch cartoons, and if so, what do you enjoy watching and why?
I do watch cartoons. I mean, obviously, I watch the kind of older audience cartoons. Futurama is near and dear to my heart. South Park, Family Guy, that kind of thing. But I will admit, I will also turn on some just whatever's on Cartoon Network during the day to, kind of just have some background noise. Like, for instance, regular show, Adventure Time, that kind of thing is on pretty regularly. And they entertain me. They really do, even today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even talking about, like, if they have a special edition of old cartoons, stuff like Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Lab, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my day is shot when that happens.
Yeah, sure.
Wait, what? They do that?
It's not very often, but sometimes they will.
Oh, I need to find this.
I know, right?
I mean, there's
90s cartoons were the best cartoons. Like,
they really were.
We'll get to that later. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, there's a station called Boomerang. You can get it on. I think some cable providers offer it, and as well as DirecTV.
Yeah, I know about Boomerang. I just don't watch TV.
Sure.
It's like I would watch cartoons if I watched TV, but I don't watch TV, so I don't watch cartoons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, what about you, Cyril? Do you
I don't really watch TV often. Occasionally I found myself turning to Family Guy. It's a good one. Futurama, I enjoy those two, but I don't know, I'll be honest, I think Cartoon Network has just kind of not done very well in the past few years. I really like Adventure Time, but they've just kind of... The quality of their cartoons has just gotten worse over the past years.
Okay.
Just like slow, and you're not really going to notice it unless you look for it, but it's definitely there.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, for me, I mean, I still watch a lot of cartoons. I'll even watch stuff on like I'll watch those crummy cartoons on like Kids WB every once in a while just to relive the old days. It's like,
Yeah, that happened.
hey, the next Yu-Gi-Oh spinoff is on.
Yeah, that happened a couple weeks ago. They had some old episodes of I don't know what it was. I guess it was Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Like, next week is the classic episode when did happened. Like, oh, so what I watched is classic now.
Yeah. We're old, maybe, kind of. But yeah, like, I mean, I still watch. I mean, I watch Adventure Time, regular show, and stuff like that on Cartoon Network. SpongeBob SquarePants, of course. Is sort of
The thing about it, regular show is I just don't see the point of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's
definitely not the best.
I mean, the kids in my scout troop that get on my nerves are the ones that quote regular show all the freaking time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's because it's just the most annoying, obnoxious thing to quote.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of that random humor you got from like early 2000 era, where people were all about the random sort of humor, and it's sort of like Seinfeld. If y'all ever watched a lot of Seinfeld, where pretty much nothing of importance really happens. Like there's, people aren't getting kidnapped or whatever. Or they might be, but it's sort of, they have mundane sort of everyday jobs, and and nothing really happens. But by the end, everything's like reset to its basic mode or whatever. But I mean, I do enjoy it just because it is something a little different than you'll see in a lot of cartoons.
Yeah.
Like at least it's subject matter, and that's something that I'd like to talk about. Where I mean, you have shows like Family Guy and Cleveland Show or whatever, and South Park especially, where it's definitely geared towards adults.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure kids watch them, but it's the subject matter is definitely for an older audience who can maybe not necessarily appreciate it, but it's there's people are walking around in lingerie at certain points or whatever. Especially South Park. It's pretty. They're known for pushing the envelope. But with like a show like Regular Time, you'll see things like the main characters are fawning over a girl or something like that. And they'll say it, and it's not really something that's like in the subtext at all. It's it's at the forefront. What you're seeing is cartoons that might have been pitched towards kids, but now they have something for an older audience, sort of like a 18 to 35-year-old range.
Yeah, and the thing about that is that you have to keep in mind with some of the kids things is, like, even in PG movies, they're going to have a lot of those more adult references because the way it's been explained to me many, many times is that the kids are watching the movie and the kids have to have their parents there with them to watch the movie, and they're putting this stuff in to keep the parents entertained.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I think it was a few months ago, Shrek just happened to be on TV, so I decided,
hilarious.
I'm gonna watch this, and I'm going to look for all of the things that just went right over my head when I was little, and I was a really oblivious kid.
Yeah,
I was probably more oblivious than I should have been. But
do you know the part where Lord Farquaad is in bed or whatever, and he's asking the mirror to play back the? If you look,
oh god,
you can see his hand under the sheet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I saw that.
And it's pretty crazy. Like it's stuff like that. Those are sort of things that you've seen that like in old Disney movies where they, they write sex in the clouds in Aladdin or stuff like that. And that happens, but stuff that's like generally directed towards an older audience is something you're going to see a lot more. And even like back in the day, like the golden age of cartoons where you had Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Porky Pig and all this stuff, those were serialized and put before movies. They were produced by the movie production companies like MGM and all that other stuff, and that's where those come from. They'd come on before a movie and they were for adults. Bugs Bunny would shoot a guy.
Oh.
You know, that's not something you want to see a kid see. You know, you don't want a kid going around shooting people, but you know, of course, you know, times change, and you know they edited those shorts and stuff like that.
Times change, so you now in this day and age you might want a kid to shoot somebody.
Well, no, but like,
times don't change at all.
Like you'll see, you know, Superman shoot lasers at somebody in a kid's cartoon, you know, stuff like that. You know,
I'm gonna imitate that.
Yeah, attitudes change, you know.
But kids always still want to imitate things. That will never change.
Yeah.
Just make it a little
That's
harder.
why my karate school gets a lot of business every time a karate movie comes out.
Sure.
Like the Karate Kid. The
The
white belt
remake.
class went from maybe 5-10 kids to 30 to 40 kids. The most we've ever had in one class. It was ridiculous. I'm glad I didn't teach it very often.
Yeah.
But even in like the 90s cartoons, like you say, I was in CC's a couple weeks back, and they had Boomerang on. Well, they had an episode of Johnny Bravo. And I watched one episode, and in one episode, he had, this is just what I picked up on between eating pizza, is he propositioned some Australian girl for a blowjob, and they made a masturbation joke.
Yeah.
In the same episode, because he
Yeah.
was like trying to live with the kangaroos or something. So like they show him from maybe his chest up, and his hands are down below the bottom of the screen. He's kind of working something back and forth, you know. And some kangaroo looks over his shoulder and is like, leave me alone, give me a little privacy, come on. And then, sure enough, he lifts up his hands. He's been building a pogo stick this whole time. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's there if you look for it. And you don't even really have to look that hard.
Yeah, and look at shows like Rocko's Modern Life and the Angry Beavers, and a lot of these old shows we look back on like guys our age, and you know maybe a little bit older, and these are cartoons you're like, oh, these are the best, and you know, we and something I've noticed is a lot of people our age will look back at those cartoons and be like, oh man, those are so great. They're way better than the cartoons that are coming out now. And, you know, I think to an extent, I mean, it all comes down to personal taste, but I think it's a little unfair. I mean, I think the cartoons we see today do similar things, and
yeah, I mean, a lot of it also is that, you know, that's what we grew up with, so that's what we look back on and say, oh, that was so much better, you know, because that's what we were exposed to when we were little.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of the kids now are going to grow up and be our age and look back and say, oh, man, you remember that show Adventure Time? Man, that was such a great show.
Yeah. Well, even that one.
But
something...
I don't think...
Do it?
I don't think I've actually heard a kid who has seen, you know, kids now, like, our age when we were watching those shows. I don't think I've ever heard any watching or talking about the shows from when we were kids, so I'm kind of wondering what that would be like.
Yeah.
You know, what their opinions of that might be. If they would share the same opinions, or if it would just be like us watching the cartoons our parents watched.
Yeah.
You know.
But something I noticed about Adventure Time, and I know I'm probably like the last person to ever say this, but I recently realized that they are in a post-apocalyptic, like, nuked out future. I did not realize this until they were having a movie night or something, and they're looking at this warning from on the FBI warning, like, holy crap, these guys are going to track us down for watching this movie.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, no man, don't worry about that, all that stuff is before the Great Mushroom War. Like, wait, what the heck?
Whoa!
that's kind of awesome.
And then, sure enough, if you look in the back, just one of the knickknacks decorating their wall is like this bomb thing. And I don't want to call it a bomb, but that's what it's shaped like, and it's got like the radioactive symbol on it.
Wow.
Oh, okay, all right.
I must not have seen enough of the show to pick up on that, but like
Yeah.
Like the amount of suggestion in Adventure Time alone is pretty staggering. Like,
It's suggestive.
like I watch.
I feel like that was made more for teenagers than for
Well,
kids.
Sure, yeah.
The first time I ever heard of Adventure Time was on an Adult Swim plug. So, I mean,
the thing is, though, there are so many pop culture references in Adventure Time. It's just like because of that alone, even if you get rid of all the adult themes, then I mean, it still feels like it was made for teenagers or something.
Yeah. And I think that's just a show of excellent writing that you can make it so interesting to so many different people.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, I was watching earlier today. Actually, I was like laying down for a nap, and just turned on the TV, and there's an episode where Jake and Finn.
Yeah.
Jake and Finn are having to do this quest where they have to watch over these 3 magic beans, and somebody's supposed to show up and look after them, but the guy who was looking after him before died or something like that, like dissolved, which is pretty funny to see on a kid's show. But anyway, so instead of waiting patiently, they want to go to the ice cream marathon or something crazy like that, and so instead they decide to plant the beans. Only thing is, one of the beans is supposed to be pure evil, and the other 2 are supposed to be good, like absolute good. But they don't know which one's which because they all look the same. So they plant them and they wait, and they're gonna try and see which like what goes into what. They're gonna hop on the evil thing as it pops up. And so after a while, you like the first 2 pop up and they look like good things, and the third thing pops up, and it's this giant bean pod. And inside, it's like full of like replenishing ice cream. It's like a cornucopia of ice cream. But like the bean pod has like it's shaped. It's like this big round ball sort of shape. It's green, and it has a slit on the front. And then you just see Jake like dive his head in, and is just going to town on all this ice cream. But if you to look at it a certain way, which they show, it's
I think I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jake comes out and his face is all covered with ice cream. So it's things like that just sort of fill the show, and it's just like a kid would not pick up on that. I would hope not.
I hope they would not.
I most certainly wouldn't have. But I was especially oblivious.
Yeah. And it's things like that make that like. They make it special in a way, but it's still like it's crazy to see like a cartoon get away with something like that. And it's pretty great.
Yeah.
And you had things like that. Like I guess sort of like a precursor to that would be like Ren and Stimpy back in the day.
Oh yeah.
The things they had on there were crazy.
And then when you're a kid, I remember thinking this about Ren and Stimpy, like. Back then you see something and now you recognize it as something meant totally for adults. And when you're a kid, you just like kind of like raise an eyebrow, like that's kind of weird, and then you go about your day. Yeah. You don't think about that at all.
Yeah. But as a kid, it was like, oh, he had him in the face, and it was funny.
Right.
It's actually, I think a while ago, my sister started rewatching Invader Zim.
Oh.
Because it was on Netflix. And I started watching that with her. Oh my gosh, it is ridiculous.
I love that show.
How just screwed up that show is. Like,
I love that show.
Watching it, I was amazed. It did not scare me when I was little, because I was one of those really easily scared kids. Like, I was probably more scared of it last year watching it than I was when I was little.
Well, funny thing about that show, the author, or the guy that wrote it, has a comic out. Well, I guess it's a graphic novel for the purists out there.
Yeah.
Called, I think it's Barry or something, but The Serial Murderer.
Oh.
And, like, I talked to a guy about it, but there's this thing behind his wall and he has to keep painting the wall with blood because he's got to keep it wet, because if it dries out, the thing will get out.
Oh.
And so, why they approached that guy to write a kid's cartoon, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
you know.
look at a similar show to that was like the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Oh, yes.
Where they did
that show wasn't as bad, but it was...
Yeah. I mean, they had some crazy stuff on there, too.
Yes.
But
Oh, yes. I mean, every now and then he would totally come out with the whole, like, yes, I am death. I kill people for a living. It's my job.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very often, but when it did, it was always kind of that whole, like, oh, yeah, he's evil incarnate.
Yeah. Even though that is definitely not his character.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. Jamaican Skeleton Man by day, and then Grim Reaper by night, I guess.
Oh,
I mean,
he
the
is
only reason
Jamaican, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the only reason he doesn't kill Billy and Mandy is because they in the pilot episode they tricked him into not into like a bond of servitude or whatever. So.
It's not even that. It's like he is bound by his honor to be their best friend forever because they beat him at limbo over their pet gerbil's soul.
Yeah.
Wow, look at Wes pulling out the info there.
Oh yeah. I love that show.
Yep. Oh, it was a great show.
Maxwell Adams is the creator of that show.
I remember when they used to bundle it together with something Bosco or whatever.
Oh, it was
is this bear?
Grim and Evil. Evil Con Carne?
Yeah, that's what it was. Evil Con Carne. And he was this brain in a jar, and he just kind of plugged himself into this bear to be his body.
And the bear was
And of course the bear didn't listen to him ever, but you know.
And they also had his stomach plugged in.
Yeah,
And
I forgot about the
stomach would
stomach.
talk sometimes.
Oh man.
And honestly,
there's Haas Delgado, that
yes.
Monster Hunter character.
Oh yes,
He's pretty great.
He's great. Haas Delgado.
I was really confused though when they stopped pairing them together. Just like, what happened to this other one? Where'd that go? I liked that one too.
Well, his general is actually their neighbor, General Scar.
Yeah.
In some of the later episodes of Billy and Mandy, he moves in next door. Pretty great.
And never the twain shall meet. Wait, no. Yeah, it's a great show. I mean, again, you see a lot of pop culture references in there.
Yeah.
Like the Pokemon episode where they make fun of.
Yeah.
What was it? Not. I want to say Chin Pokemon, but that was the South.
That was the South Park one. They did do a trading card game where all the monsters came real.
Yeah.
I think I remember that one.
And then Mandy's monster, who turns all the other monsters to toast and eats them all.
And it's like literal toast, like fried bread that they then just kind of eat for the rest of the episode.
Yep.
And it's all crudely drawn, that kind of thing. Yeah. Pretty great.
Yeah. So I don't. It's people tend to associate cartoons with children, but I think it's something that it's meant for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, it really is, and that's how you can tell it's a really well written one. Is that everyone can enjoy it?
Oh yes.
We were talking about really good cartoons. I couldn't help but thinking of Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Oh yes.
Because over the summer I went and rewatched that since Legend of Korra came out, and I think I had just finished season 1 of Korra, and it was just such a great cartoon.
Well, Samurai Jack in that vein was excellent as well.
Yeah.
Kind of like an American. If I remember it right, it was kind of an American experiment into the anime style.
I think so.
Sort of.
Something like that.
The guy who created Samurai Jack is a guy named Gendy Tartakovsky.
Yeah.
He's also famous for Dexter's Lab. Was one of his.
No wonder I liked it.
And didn't he also do Powerpuff Girls?
I
don't know, but it was a similar animation style.
I think he produced it.
Okay.
I think he produced the Powerpuff Girls. The person behind Powerpuff Girls is the person behind that show which shall not be named on this podcast, which Shane's not here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to discuss
Yeah,
that
we'll
show
talk
at a
about
later
that
date.
that show.
Oh, I think I know what show you guys are talking about.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
one. And for those of you
That-
out there
that
who
show.
don't know,
You know.
we'll just leave you in suspense as to what this show is.
Another day. We could just let Shane just talk for an hour whenever we get him on there.
Yeah, maybe that'll be.
Shane, by the way,
he's
is
one
the-
of them, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
He is one of those.
He is.
I think I'll skip out on that podcast.
Our friend Shane is another officer in the app club, and he's an avid fan of this show. But anyway, yeah, the woman who created that show also created the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh.
And,
If that
But yeah,
gives you a
Gennady
hint to the show
Tartakovsky.
we're talking about.
yeah. Anyway, so Gennady Tartakovsky created Samurai Jack, and I guess one of his main inspirations was those sort of those classical Japanese paintings or whatever, where you have you have like the sort of what's the word I'm looking for, watercolor sort of aesthetic,
Yeah.
and the Japanese lettering and stuff like that,
mhm.
and, like the waves and stuff. And so you can see almost a direct sort of translation with Jack and how he sort of appears, like in the cells in the show. He's sort of this sort of he has no like outline
Yeah.
or whatever.
No black
Like-
outline. You get some
And that
tan
was sort of-
outlines on his clothes and stuff, just to differentiate
Sure.
it from itself. But
Yeah, and it oh god, that show, like there's a couple episodes of that show where there was no talking at all. Like
Oh, really?
one of my favorite episodes, Jack is walking in the snow, and he's walking, and you don't really know why. He's just he's just traveling, and it pans away from him, and it goes to this cabin out in the snow, and you see like this sort of voodoo inspired guy who's got like a blowgun, and like he's like this sort of African tribal sort of leader guy, and he's sort of like messing around with his blowgun and sort of sharpening the darts and playing with the feathers in them and stuff like that. And then it goes to a sort of ninja type cyborg guy, and he's like pulling out a sword and like cutting these dripping water. You hear the water dripping, and it's sort of blending with that sort of mellow music that permeates the show. And as he cuts it, he's sheathing his sword back real quick. And then there's a couple other guys sitting there. There's probably a guy with a gun. He's like 6 shooters, and he's like messing around with it, stuff like that. And these are some bad dudes, and you figure out pretty quick that they're after Jack, and like the whole episode, it's like 20 minutes of you just seeing nothing. It's these guys sitting in the snow in this cabin, and Jack is walking towards them. And by the end, like the final minute of the show, Jack just tears them all apart. Like he just he dominates all of them, and then that's the episode. I mean, that's it. And to me, like that's like the quintessential episode for me. It's just like, he's so like just such a bad egg.
Well, one I remember is there was an episode where it's kind of like the haunted house episode, and he goes in this house and he starts talking to these people, and then he pretty quickly figures out that they're all dead, and that there's this spirit that holds them hostage. And there's this one, it's in a completely different animation style at the very end, where he goes like into this spirit's plane of existence to, battle this spirit and set this family free. And it doesn't even look like the same show. And it's, oh man, something we were talking about before we started is that none of us here like horror movies. This episode was about as much as I could take. It was awesome. Messed up, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that episode where he goes up and fights a ninja, and it makes a big deal of how the ninja is just is so able to blend in the shadows, and Jack is fighting him and losing, and we're like, oh no, Jack might bite the dust on this one, but then Jack's like, oh, I know you're a ninja, but you train with the darkness, but I train with the light, and he sort of changes around his clothing and becomes like a white ninja. And so the episode changes from they're fighting in sort of this dilapidated building, sort of like a skyscraper, and it becomes completely black and white. And you sort of, Like the only thing you can really tell that there's actual people fighting is the black ninja coming into the light parts of the building, and Jack jumping through the black parts, and like their
That's
eyes.
That was
or
excellent.
whatever. And it's awesome.
That was an excellent episode.
Yeah,
I need
that's
that
one
on
thing I
DVD.
really like
Right.
from cartoons like that and Avatar is like such an excellently written story behind it, and you have the great combat scenes.
Sure, that's my favorite part of Avatar.
Yeah,
I didn't think
mean,
it had the best ending ever. But
what, Avatar?
no, not Avatar. Avatar was great. Samurai Jack.
Okay.
As I
I
remember,
never
the
saw the
ending
ending
wasn't
of that.
excellent. He kind of saved some sprite people from kind of being in his position. But like earlier on in the show, they had made reference to he finally does go back in time, but he's this really old dude when he does it. He's like 50 or something like that, 50, 60, and he's this kind of like warlord kind of guy. But so you kind of figure that okay, well he continues on the way he is until he gets to that, and then he goes back and accomplishes his goal. But you don't actually get that part of the story.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
really
you can sort of
loved the
film
ending
things.
of Avatar.
Oh yes.
I mean,
I think the last, my favorite ending line was Zuko. No, wait. There may be people listening who haven't seen it, so I'm not going to talk about that.
are we
because
talking about
spoilers.
the original series or
The Last
Legend of
Airbender?
Korra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Well,
I was
think you
about to
can talk
completely spoil the ending, but then realized,
I mean,
no, wait,
you can
wait.
go ahead and talk about it.
Spoiler
I mean, it's
alert,
been-
people who haven't seen the end of Avatar The Last Airbender, skip a couple minutes.
I think the rule is like 3 years, and it's spoiler tags. Or,
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
I don't
College
know
Humor has a
any of
video
the rules
about
on
that.
spoilers. So.
Yeah.
All right, my favorite of the ending line is when he walks into his father's prison cell. It says, "Where is my mother?" Cuts
Yeah.
off. Silent.
I mean,
And
Zuko,
actually, from what I read, Nick, they have actually been making comic books. There's been like this. There's some like Nick magazine or something that they've had
sure, yeah.
shorts from when they were actually in the middle of the series. But I read that recently they did some comics that took place after the ending of The Last Airbender, but during Aang's life. And it is called The Promise. It's in 3 parts, and I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but I really need to. And they're actually doing something else. I don't think they've started it yet, but they're doing another 3-part one that follows Zuko finding his mother.
That's cool.
And I really want to read that.
Now, my favorite line in the entirety of that show is kind of when I think is in the last season where Zuko kind of teams up with Aang, right? And him and Sokka are on a hot air balloon or something equivalent to that to go do some mission somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And they're sitting there that they start talking about girls, It's like, hey, so you got a girl back in the Fire Nation? She's like, I used to. I had to break up with her. She probably hates me now. He's like, oh man, that's rough. My girlfriend turned into the moon. It's like, oh buddy. Oh, that's bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That was a pretty great line.
That was. I enjoyed it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean-
that's when they were traveling to the Boiling Rock to break Sokka's dad out of prison.
Right. Yes.
I was because at the in the last season it's after Zuko joins the party. It's basically a series of episodes of them going on quests with Zuko and having wonderful revelations in the process. And then, what was the funniest part was in some of the last episodes where they start, Aang disappears. He does like halfway between the normal world and the spirit world on the giant lion turtle, and they start looking for him around Ember Island. And Katara's like, alright, we have to split into groups and go look for him or something. And Toph's like, oh, I call Zuko. I want to have my wonderfully life-changing revelation with him.
Yeah.
I haven't had my field trip with Zuko yet. And she, they're walking around the island, and she just starts telling him her whole life story. And it's just like, he doesn't actually say it, but you can see his response is basically just, shut up, I don't care, we're doing something.
I mean, I liked the original run of Avatar. I didn't care so much for the Legend of Korra, as much
Thing is,
because
I think with The Last Airbender, the plot has been a lot better. Yeah. Or it was a lot better than The Legend of Korra. But I think with Korra,
it is 3 times longer, though.
They did a lot more focusing on kind of the combat scenes, which I really like, because they're really freaking amazing.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and that's that is the one sort of saving grace for The Legend of Korra for me was the combat. It was really cool to see. Yeah,
and I also like how they've gone into developing the different styles of bending and just the future of what's happened since Aang did what he did. And that's one thing I'm really looking forward to season 2 is I really hope they do a lot of the flashback kind of things. Just to see, this is the history of Republic City, and this is, what Aang was doing after he killed the Fire Lord.
Right.
Well, he didn't kill him, but I see what you're saying. But
defeated.
Sorry. But at the same time, if you go too much into those old characters, you sort of missed out on the new characters.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why they made sure all of the old characters were dead, except Katara. But she's gonna kick the bucket soon. Everyone knows it.
Well, no, Sokka's still alive. He's one of the council members, wasn't he? No, wait, no. That was in the flashback. Yeah. But yeah, for me, the last 3 or 4 episodes really just sort of ruined it for me in a way. I mean, again, the combat was excellent, but just sort of how fast they moved.
Yeah,
I
was really surprised that they did all of that in a season. I thought that was going to be the whole plot of the entire series, and then they get to the end of... I'm expecting there to be some, crazy plot twist that it keeps going for a few more seasons, and then, it's this guy. Okay. Well, it's that guy's brother.
Yeah. Within, 15, 20 minutes, we find out who... Well, spoiler
warning.
Spoiler
alert. Major spoiler alert. Skip a few minutes.
Yeah. We find out who the main bad guy.
And then they're riding in the boat, and he just sees the glove sitting there, reaches over, grabs it, puts it on.
We find out who the bad guy is. We find
make some
out
comment about how he loves his brother and how things are going to be like they were in the old days or something, and then blows up the engine on the boat.
Okay.
We learn who he is, what his motivations are, why he's doing everything he does. He gets outed. He turns from the people's champion into public enemy number 1
because
all
they
within
find out
15
he's a
minutes. And then he's just he's beaten in this sort of cop out way. And I don't know. I just feel like if they should have kept some of the decisions they made in the story intact, Chief Beifong gets her powers taken away. But then, Korra shows up and gets them. And so it's that was something interesting and cool they could have done with that character, and the setting in general. But sort of everything bad that happened was just righted almost instantly. So
and I think, I do like that they did that, but it just happened too quickly. Because end of The Last Airbender, he learns how to do the whole energy bending thing, and he passes it on to the next incarnate, Well, I mean, that's obviously a power she should have, just not this early on in the series, because I feel like that's going to end up being kind of a really big Deus Ex Machina.
Anytime something bad is going wrong, just revert to this.
Oh, well, I'm just going to energy bend this, which is why, like, in The Last Airbender, I'm really glad they waited till the very end of the series to do that. Otherwise... Aang would have used that all the time.
Oh yeah,
sure. I mean, and it fits thematically. You see Aang realize something that he has yet to find out. Like he's struggling with this decision to.
He doesn't want to kill the guy.
Sure, and people are like, oh, you should kill him because he's done all these terrible things, and there's no other way to stop him.
I don't want to kill him.
Yeah, but then some people are like, no, you shouldn't kill him because killing people's wrong. And, those are sort of, I don't want to say equally valid, but they are defensible positions, and then he finds the other way.
That and just the way they presented it to him was just wonderful.
And so when he makes that decision, it sort of relays that to the audience as well. This is something that Aang's learned, and it's something that the audience learns with him as it happens. And
I finally noticed something actually. In the last episode, because in the second season finale, he's doing the whole opening his chakras thing to get into the Avatar state, and then he gets blasted by lightning and says, I'm never going to be able to go into the Avatar state again. Because, and then season finale, he goes into the Avatar state again. Something I noticed was that in the middle of the battle, he gets some, like, crazy force knockback, and just his back hits a rock just right so that it releases all of the built-up energy or whatever that's in there. And then, hey, I can do Avatar State again.
Yeah, that's a little...
So that was a bit of a cop-out, but...
It's convenient.
It's one of those really convenient ones that... But it made for a really just epic.
It did
final
make for a dramatic
battle,
ending, yes.
Because he had the whole four elements thing going on. And, I mean, I'm not ever going to complain about that.
Well, a bit I liked the best about that whole series was when he's talking about his the previous Avatar before him, Roku, and he's showing up to go, fight the Fire Lord, or just kind of write whatever he's doing, and he shows up and the guy tries to attack him. Well, in the space of like 10 seconds, he whips up on him, and he doesn't even use his dominant element. Like he dodges with earth or something, knocks him back with air or something. I think he flies with air, and then he puts out his fire with water or something like that, and then he just kind of leaves. It's like, hey, I basically did all that with my non-dominant hand. What are you gonna do now? And he just kind of leaves.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, that gets to, like, I guess a sort of complaint about that show was that, like, I cared way more about some of the secondary characters than I did about the main characters. Like, Zuko was my favorite, and I guess he's sort of
Zuko
secondary main
like,
character.
I hated him in the first season. Second season, I'm just like, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be a good guy now. Yeah. And then third season, I'm just like, yeah, you're my favorite character.
Sure. Well.
And the best thing is, though, like, I'm a karate guy. I started doing Chinese broadsword recently. He uses dual broadswords with fire attack, which is, dual broadswords. I really want to learn how to use that. I'm
That's
just
like 8 times
not
better.
good with my offhand. And he wears a Southern-style uniform, which is the sleeveless kind, which is my favorite kind. In my favorite color pattern... black with gold trim.
So basically what you're saying is...
I love his character design.
So basically what you're saying is you stood in front of the bathroom mirror and pretended like you were Zuko for a while.
I thought about it a few times, I'll be quite honest.
We've all
No,
been there.
but like, he fits my aesthetic perfectly almost.
Yeah. Wow, we've been talking about Avatar for a while.
Yeah, may need to move
It's
the
a great
conversation
show.
ahead a little bit. as great as Avatar is.
Sure. I mean, we might have to revisit
We're
this
probably
topic
going to have
later
to touch on this again.
when the second season of Korra comes out.
I need to watch the first one.
When that comes out, we will be talking about that.
Sure. Cyril kind of hinted at it a little bit. Let's talk about some martial arts. It's something that I've been a huge fan of since I was a little kid.
I've been
watching,
doing
my first Jackie Chan
Taekwondo
movie.
for about 8 years.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in other conversations, I mentioned that just because it's a really big part of my life, and that's how I have to relate to things a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I actually went to a karate tournament this weekend, or earlier today, and got first place in weapons, forms, and fighting.
Impressive.
Awesome.
Which doesn't happen very often, so I was very excited.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that everybody wants to be able to do, but very few people have, the wherewithal to stick with it until...
Like breakdancing.
I'll confess, I've never really
Parkour.
wanted to breakdance.
Yeah.
I think you're just lying. That's what I think. Everybody wants to breakdance. No, but yeah. I mean, I know a little bit of some martial arts. I mean, I took jiu-jitsu for a year at UTK. Had a great instructor. Got 8th degree black belt. This old Irish guy. He's going senile and repeats himself all the time, but he was awesome. I learned a lot, and something that sort of stuck with me, even though I haven't really practiced in 2 or 3 years. And then I followed that up with some Iaido, some sword fighting, and again, something that I sort of took to rather well. I took to that better than I did the jiu-jitsu. But yeah, it's just something that it's so cool to when you watch Jackie Chan beat up a room full of guys, you think, oh, I can do that. It's so awesome.
It's harder than it looks.
Yeah, you walk outside of a martial arts movie, like a Van Damme movie or something, or who's that guy? Jason Statham. Yeah, where you walk out of a Jason Statham movie thinking you could take on the whole movie theater full of dudes. I just wish somebody would come up and try to hit me. You walk out with your shoulders bowed and stuff like that. Yeah. You walk up to take a leak in the bathroom and you feel like you could just sort of rip the thing out of the wall or whatever. But yeah, dude, like martial arts, getting back to Avatar, that's again, that's
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I really like it now is because I know a lot of these martial arts references. Especially, I started taking a Tai Chi class here this semester, and it's a ton of fun. And I think if I once second season of Korra comes out, start watching, I'm definitely going to start paying attention to some of the water bending, since I'm going to be able to pick out some of the techniques now. Because, in the past, I don't know any of these 4 styles of martial arts that they're using, so I can't really look at all the techniques. They're similar to some that I recognize from styles that I've looked at a lot, but I mean, never something I've actually done.
I mean, there's something about just sort of the movement and like the art of it that just really gets to me.
Yeah.
Like I can watch a terrible movie, but if it has some awesome fight scenes in it, it's like, oh, dude, that movie was awesome.
Like, my favorite part about how they apply it, though, is they take hand-to-hand combat, like actually hitting each other, and put it at a little bit more distance, and put, like, throwing rocks, fire, wind, water at each other. And it's just, like, it's exactly the same style, just it's not at all. They're not changing anything, and yet they're just making it entirely different.
Right.
I saw the movie The Raid Redemption recently. This was a few weeks ago, but in it's a Indonesian movie, I believe, and in it this special ops guy and his team like assail this tower. And really, like, the story is sort of throwaway. It's pretty simple in terms of motivation goes. I'm gonna go kill this guy. Oh, now I'm trapped in this building. I gotta fight my way out, or I'm gonna die. I won't see my unborn child, or whatever. But like, those are just sort of like the bookends,
right?
But like, and what lies in the middle is just about an hour's worth of just hard hitting, guys beating the crap out of each other, and it is excellent. And it's just like I want to do that. Like it's weird. Like I feel like after like I said earlier, I know a little bit of martial arts, but after I watch a movie, it feels like like that's how they did that move right there. I could probably do that, a little bit of practice. I could do, I could throw that kick or that punch or that elbow or whatever. And it's weird. Like a few years ago, there was a movie, Final Fantasy. Advent Children.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was more than a few years ago.
The sort of sequel to Final Fantasy VII, and in it you see there's some fighting going on, but a lot of it is sort of DBZ, sort of over the top sort of fighting. But some of the stuff like that seems kind of possible. I think I could claw my way up the side of a building like Reno just did.
Nope, there's no way.
But it's like it looks.
You think that when you're watching it. Oh, that doesn't look too tough. Go out and try it. Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, and when growing up, I was like, I'd fight invisible.
Oh, of course, who didn't?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't
That's
even
actually
watch
one of the things my friend uses to teach the kids their forms. Is to get them interested in the forms. Is alright. You've got a bunch of ninjas coming at you from this direction. So you block them and then you punch. Now on to the next one's coming from this direction. And they have a good time with it.
I bet. But yeah, I mean, martial arts. I want to do some right now, but
so
like
one of my life's ambitions for a few years now has been when I'm finished with college. I really want to move to China to study in Shaolin Kung Fu and just this is all I do for at least a year. Hopefully more than a year, but at least a year.
I mean, I have every intention of one day when I have offspring of my own to sign them up for some form of martial arts, mostly because that would give me an excuse to also learn martial arts.
Yeah. And actually when I started karate, we moved and I'd always wanted to do karate, so now there's a karate school in our town and I finally get to go and learn karate. So I start that a few weeks later my sister decides, you know what? I think I'll join him. That seems kind of fun. And maybe a month or two later, my mom decides, you know what? Both my kids are doing it. I might as well join them. And then I went to test with my black belt, for my black belt with my mom about, I guess, almost 3 years ago. My sister ended up not being able to do it because she moved to Boston. But, she got over it.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, growing up, that was always something I wanted to do. I want to learn martial arts. I want to do all these things. And growing up, I've always lived in small towns for pretty much ever, and there's never really was a place to actually learn. I mean, I look back now and there was, but it was never really an uprise.
And the thing is, just because there's a place to learn doesn't mean there's a good place to learn.
Sure.
Because most of the karate schools you're going to come across are places like Karate for Kids, who My favorite terms for these places are
I've read about this.
McDojos and black belt mills. Because you go there for 2 months, take a 1-hour test, hey, here's your black belt. Versus me, I had to train for 5 years, go through 3 months of the most intense training of my life. One of the black belts actually told us, unless you do something crazy like Navy SEAL training or, end up in one of those Israeli forces, this will be the worst training. This will be the hardest training you could possibly do. And that was training for the 8-hour black belt test.
Wow.
Overnight. I'm not allowed to talk about it, by the way. So I'm just going to throw that out there now. Because they're very secretive about it.
I mean, my brother told me of a friend of his who had to. He was taking a black belt test, and part of it was he had to stay in a circle while 3 other guys tried to throw him out of it. And if he got thrown out of the circle, he was done. Like, he had to wait and do it again later.
Yeah.
And it's it's nuts. And like the McDojo thing, like my jiu-jitsu sensei, that was one of the things he was really passionate about, was that you have all these sort of schools who do sort of like for one little, like they give like these $50-$60 tests for like a little strip of tape for your belt or whatever. Like you don't even go up a rank, you just get like, here's a little progress on your belt.
I mean, we do use the whole electric tape on the belts, but that's to mark, how much they've learned and how close they are to the next belt.
Yeah.
It's not really a big deal. It's just kind of show me what you know and make sure you know it all. Yeah. And you're a little bit closer to your next belt. You can now start learning more of the stuff you need to know for your next belt.
Right.
Yeah.
But they still get that little bit of recognition for it.
Yeah.
Part of it is a self-esteem thing, since it's mostly kids.
Yeah, but Sensei, he would just, he was more along the line that, like, a lot of these guys who didn't feel that passionate about the sort of the lifestyle, that they would just sort of take people for a ride a little bit. They'd teach them a little bit, but not it wasn't worth what people were paying for.
Right.
Of course, if Sensei had his way, he'd be teaching people for free. And that's basically what he did. I mean,
and that's what I would do too.
Yeah. And the only thing he really charged for was, of course, it was a college level. It was a college course, so we paid for the time. But like when we took a test, it was, all right, you took the test. Now, if you passed, you pay me $3 for the belt. And that was it. That was you buy your gear and then you buy the belts whenever you can. Let's move on. We're recording this on Saturday, the 20th of October, and that means...
No, actually, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That means coming up we have Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about Halloween for a bit, and let's talk about some old memories and stuff. First off, like when y'all went trick or treating as kids, like what did you hope to get in the bag or whatever?
Candy.
What kind of candy?
I didn't care as long as it was candy. And not like the health food and pretzels and stuff like that. 'Cause seriously, who gives that stuff? Like, you go trick or treating for candy. That's why you go.
Personally, I was happy to get anything with a label I could recognize. Like, so long as it's not, drugstore hard candies or something like that.
I'll tell you something that I got all the time, but some people might like frown upon, was like Mary Jane's. They're these like peanut butter taffies. They come in the orange and black wrapper.
That's a questionable name.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
gosh,
I love
what's
them.
wrong with you?
Like, those are so great. Maybe it's because I like peanut butter, butter candy a lot, like Reese's and stuff like that, and it's just sort of an extension of that whole family of awesome treats.
As long as it was 100% sugar, I was just fine.
You just got like a big bag of
Like,
granulated
I
sugar.
got... My favorite
Thanks.
candies were the ones that were pretty much 100% sugar.
Three Musketeers is always a favorite of mine. Snickers were good.
Basically anything with chocolate
Yeah,
was
yeah,
also
yeah.
a favorite of mine.
I used to like Three Musketeers, but like looking like nowadays, like I eat them and it's like there's like no substance to this. It's
Yeah.
like air chocolate and chocolate. And I was like, I used to hate Snickers, but now I like love Snickers.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And Milky Ways and stuff like that. You know, it's funny how my tastes change. You know. And of course, Wonka candy. Like growing up, I guess when we were growing up, you know, Wonka candy really sort of
Oh yeah.
hit the scene. Stuff like Nerds,
Well,
like Nerds and Shock
Oh
Tarts.
yeah, I
was my
forgot
favorite.
about the Nerds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
those
those
were one
are
of
the
those
candies you
100% sugar things
Oh yes.
that I loved.
Oh yes.
Yeah, bottle caps. Bottle caps are. Every time I eat
pretty
bottle
much
caps, it's like
just described every candy, didn't I? Between 100% sugar and anything to do with chocolate.
Yeah, that is most of candy, isn't it?
like
I challenge you to come up with a candy that does not fall into that category. I'm gonna add something to a candy that does not suck that falls under that category.
well, see, now we're getting
It's
to
a
the
little
objective
objective, yeah.
territory here.
Because like candy
Yeah.
corn is 100% sugar, but I mean,
still
I
sucks.
kind of like it.
I'm personally not a big fan.
I like Starburst candy corn. That's pretty good, but just normal candy corn's kind of gross.
Well, more for me then.
Like getting back to bottle caps, like every time I get bottle caps now, like if I see them at Walmart or something like on sale, I was like, "Oh, bottle caps sound awesome!" But then I eat the bottle caps, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This doesn't taste good at all." I'd rather not have bottle caps right now.
Yeah.
It just they don't. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think they're gonna be so much
Yeah.
better than they are. You know.
They have no.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Just make-
nostalgic, you know. There's no actual substance to it.
Yeah.
You like it because you liked it when you were a kid, and now it's just disgusting. And you're like,
I didn't
Yeah.
even think I liked them as a kid. It's just I keep fooling myself. It's like this must be good, right? Because you know it tastes like soda,
not at all.
but it really doesn't. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, stop me if you heard this one. Like, did y'all ever put bottle caps in water and be like, "I'm gonna make this into
I'm pretty
soda"?
sure I tried that with a lot of candies. Never worked for any of them, just for the record.
Yeah, I've done that more times than I care to
Well,
imagine.
one of them I liked.
Always tasted horrible.
One of them I liked, and
And yet I kept trying.
it was such a weird thing. Was I always seemed to get them for Christmas too. Like not for Halloween, but I got them for Christmas. And I don't know why, but it was these little soda things, and it wasn't bottle caps, but it was this like
Oh yeah.
yeah, the
Like
wax,
the wax?
Coke bottle shaped things that had a little like half ounce of juice in them or
Yeah,
something.
I know what you're talking about.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
No, you can eat that wax.
But like now it's like kind of nasty to think about. You know, you got to bite this wax off and spit it on the ground or wherever. And
you can swallow it.
I mean, okay,
It's just really all wax is like glucose.
well, not glucose,
I
but
guess.
hydrocarbons. Yes.
Whatever. Sucrose. Yeah. You probably wouldn't
No,
digest
it
them
would
very
pass
well, but,
through
no, you can eat 'em.
undigested. Yeah.
I mean, they coat
Yep,
M&Ms
carnauba
in
wax. The same kind of
Probably.
wax you put on your car.
Oh,
you know.
yeah, they probably
Absolutely.
do, don't they?
Which is probably why so many cars look delicious.
Candy apple red. You thought it was just a name.
Yeah. You lick them, and it's an apple with candy on it.
So we're gonna go down to the dealership
Red
and start
M&M
licking
things.
cars and see how long it takes to call the cops, right?
Hey guys, I wonder if
This
this
is
tastes
false
like red
advertising.
M&Ms.
The thing about M&Ms though is I keep expecting them to be like different flavors, and they're absolutely
Yeah,
not,
Yeah,
and it's kind of disappointing.
It is.
yeah, and thing like even the ones that are supposed to be different flavors, like Skittles,
Yeah,
I can never tell the difference.
I mean, come on.
It's like
There's no difference here.
Well, the
Like,
flavor is the Skittles
I guess
flavor. It's not like the actual flavor, you know.
in that defense, though, I have a habit of just like pouring the whole bag into my hand at once and
That's
just
true.
like shoving them
So it
all
ends up
into
as a
my
mosh
mouth
of all the flavors.
at the same time. Yes.
This is fruit punch Skittles. Yeah,
I've kind of stopped doing that as much as I've grown older, but I still do it a lot.
It's like you're dipping tobacco or something. Just like I always love like sucking on the Skittles and just like it being like a big like mound in my mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
It was. It's like Kool-Aid.
Man, I want some Skittles now.
Yeah, for real.
I don't know about you guys, but
I'll tell you what though, Halloween sort of ruined my teeth last year. Like I bought one of those big old bags of candy from Walmart or whatever, with like 300 pieces of candy or whatever. Half expecting to hand them out to kids.
And you just ate them.
And well, no, I waited and not a single kid showed up to my apartment. Even though like I knew kids that lived in that apartment area, and we had the lights on and everything. Maybe because we didn't have any decorations out, I guess. Probably a red flag there, but we didn't get any kids, and so we just started eating. Like me and my roommates just started eating the candy, whatever. Somebody's gonna eat it.
and then the kids show up.
No. Like I said, no kids showed up. But then, like, I just start eating all this candy, and like my teeth just got wrecked. Like, like I didn't brush my teeth after like eating all that candy. I'd brush my teeth before I go to bed, but several hours of chocolate in my molars.
And my friend had a Halloween party, and I used to love Butterfingers. Butterfingers were amazing. And he had Butterfingers at his Halloween party, and I ate so many Butterfingers at this party, and I got so sick. And I don't think I have ever eaten a Butterfinger since.
Right. I'll tell you though,
Butterfingers are good, but they get stuck in my teeth, like hardcore. It's just like
right. I'll tell you though, one of my fondest Halloween memories is that, like, I kind of missed the boat on having scary costumes, right? I just kind of, like, stayed a ninja for entirely too long.
Oh my gosh, I did exactly the same thing.
But, like, this one time, I was pretty well sure that it was going to be my last trick-or-treating thing, right? And this was confirmed to me when a little kid, like, ran away from me. But what I did was I just went out and got this, like, black robe thing, painted a skull on my face, got some little skeleton gloves, and then just grabbed the handle off a push broom and started walking around the neighborhood with that. And it was great. And walking up to some house with a glass door, kid sitting on the stairs, sees me, does a double take, and takes off up the stairs. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh my god.
Of course, for those of you who have seen me lately at Halloween, like for the Alpha Psi Phi parties, that is where our zombie totem came from. I had that, and then there was a costume party later that year, like later that week or whatever. So I just went out and got this pirate head motion sensor thing, duct taped that to the top of the stick. So now, not just, skeleton man with a stick, now I'm a voodoo man with a animated talking head on a stick. And that was a lot of fun.
I'm sure that sounds like it.
I've never been one to dress up a lot for Halloween. Like when I was a kid, when I was real little, my family lived in the Philippines for a while, and so we didn't really trick or treat until we came back when I was 7 or 8. So I sort of missed like the whole trick or treating thing. Like I remember trick or treating like 3 or 4 times in my life, and we never really like spent the money on like a store-bought costume or nothing like that. I was always like a construction worker or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd always get a nice haul of candy. So.
I never went for scary costumes. I was always that really nerdy kid. You know, I've loved RPG fantasy games since I was
Cyril,
little kid.
I hate to break it to you, but
we were all,
still are that guy.
And, you know, so that's always what I wanted to be for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
I got stuck on ninja for a few years. I always wanted to be a knight, but I never felt like the costumes were good enough to be really a knight. Mm-hmm. And so I got stuck on the really crappy ninja costume, like the crappy homemade ninja costumes with the ski mask for the ninja mask. Sure. Yeah, and like, what was it, Under Armour shirt and sweatpants, I think one year was my ninja costume.
There's Cyril with P90X ninja.
But yeah, that was, I mean, looking back on it, I'm just like, why those costumes were so bad. And one year I decided I wanted my weapon to be, it's basically one of those sock flails you see the HVZ people walking around with.
Right.
And so that was the weapon I used, except it was one of those blue soccer socks. Yeah. It was that bad.
It's an ancient Japanese weaponry right there.
Yeah.
You know? Sock boy.
Well, that sounds about as good of a segue as any to give an update on the Humans vs. Zombies game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's also we should also mention the party we got coming up.
Yeah.
We have the annual Alpha Sci-Fi Halloween party, where we try to have sort of a potluck sort of dinner thing. People usually dress up, and we've had costume contests in the past, and so I figured we'd do that again. I don't know.
I'm strongly considering for my costume just wearing my kung fu uniform I got a few weeks ago, just because it's ridiculously comfortable. Because it's, I think, satin material, which is kind of like silk.
Right, it's like cheaper silk, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not made from the
so comfortable.
The silk of worms in Japan, or China, or wherever that is. I guess that's China.
Asia.
It could be multiple places.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll probably have a costume contest, and then we usually do what Humans vs. Zombies, Nerf,
kind of a
battles.
Tamed down version of what's out there now. Well, it's pretty much petered out at this point, but a by round thing, so pretty much everything we do wraps up in a couple hours, but pretty heavy Nerf component.
So yeah, we've got that. Yeah, we've got that coming up on next Wednesday. That'll be Wednesday the 31st on Halloween. Members of the Alpha Sci-Fi Club get in for free, and they get to bring one guest. Everyone else has to pay
something like that. I forget,
$5 or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a thing, and it's happening next
on
week.
Wednesday.
So you should be there
at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the multipurpose room.
Yeah, multi-purpose room. University
Bring
Center
costumes.
of Tennessee Tech.
Well, don't bring them. Wear them.
Yes.
Unless you have like extra ones laying around.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that would be a little weird.
That'd
Hey,
be kinda
wear
weird,
my
though,
costume.
Yeah. And let me take pictures of you.
And it just got creepy.
Yeah, it kinda did.
Yeah, so moving on.
I was gonna make some sort of assless chaps thing.
So moving on.
Anyway.
I was trying to keep that image out of my head, but that didn't quite work.
That's there forever, Cyril.
Other people's assless chaps.
Yeah.
Can't help but think of that scene from Dodgeball.
Oh no, the one where he's
where
watching the truck.
Uniforms.
You must be Big Daddy.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Okay, so moving on.
All right, so we're reaching about a minute and 20. We're about an hour and 20 minutes into the podcast, so I think it's about time to wrap things up. A couple announcements. We were just not talking about Humans vs. Zombies. That's coming pretty much to a close.
Yeah. All the zombies are
starting to die off.
and pretty much all of the humans that are still alive, we've come to the conclusion that they're probably just not playing the game anymore.
Yeah, there's something like 30 people out there.
It's basically stopped at this point. Because there are 19 zombies and 30-something humans, last I checked, about an hour ago.
So yeah, what started off as something kind of awesome is now sort of petering out a little bit. So,
Before I forget, remember my prediction in the first episode about Humans vs. Zombies, how I'd die like a punk on day one?
Did you die like a punk on day one?
Guess what happened at 5:30 on Monday?
Did you die like a punk?
I died like a punk. There was like 6 humans around me, and 2 zombies walk up. And everybody starts talking about, like, let's go get the zombies. Yeah, let's go get them. Let's go. So then we take off. And by we, I mean I took off, and they watched me take off. And they totally didn't, like, support me at all. There's one of them right behind me, and 6 humans watching me go down, and they just kind of stared and watched.
You sort of curse their names as you get successfully devoured by zombies.
And the stupid thing about it is that I got one of them, and I turned to shoot the other one. Well, what happens? My Maverick goes click, and I'm like, what? Why did that happen? That never happens. I did the slip clutch mod. It doesn't happen. And I found out that like 3 hours earlier, I had fired one dart out of my gun and spun the barrels. Guess which one it landed on?
The empty barrel?
Yeah, the one I needed. Yeah, it's messed up. So I went down like a punk, but it was way less stressful being a zombie.
I'm really good at Wesley's games.
I know, right? Because I've been told before, the end of my stories never surprise anybody.
Oh boy. So yeah, that's Humans vs. Zombies. Also coming up, either next week or the week after, we are seeing a movie. So if you're in the Alpha Sci-Fi Club
hopefully,
or are affiliated with it in any way, we are seeing Wreck-It Ralph.
Which spawned
assuming that it's actually playing.
Conversation.
Sure.
Yep.
Assuming that it's actually playing at our local theater, like we assume it will because it's a family movie, and family movies tend to flourish in our local cinema. But according to Fandango, it appears to be not.
Or you could check
showing up. So whether or not they just haven't updated it.
Our theater's website, because that tends to be a little more reliable.
Yeah. I'll probably call them, I don't know, Monday or something like that. At least before our next meeting. And we'll sort that out. But yeah, we're going to see a movie. And if you are in the Alpha Sci-Fi Club and you're listening to this, remember that you get half of your ticket paid by the club. So keep that in mind. We will hook you up with half of the ticket.
Right.
If not before the movie, then afterwards. So be sure to hold on to your ticket stub. Or make sure someone saw you there.
Right.
And one last thing before we go. After on Thursday, following the Halloween party, we've got NaNoWriMo starting up. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's National Novel Writing Month. It is something that I've participated in before and failed miserably, but it is something that people in the club have done in the past, and I figured I'd bring that up.
Right.
Our former Empress, Gina Dennis, is a municipal liaison again, and she is helping to coordinate events and stuff like that. So, any of you burgeoning authors out there who are listening, check out NaNoWriMo.com, I believe. NaNoWriMo.com or NaNoWriMo.org, or one of those two, and sign up and get with your local your local region and write a novel in 1 month, 50,000 words. Not as easy as it might sound to some people. I don't know, but it's definitely fun and a learning experience. But yeah, so that's coming up in November. I'm going to try again and probably not do it again. But who knows? I might actually get off my lazy butt and get it done.
It is a pretty big commitment if you have a class schedule of any size.
Yeah. Although I don't have a job, so maybe that'll help. But anyway, that just about does it for episode 2 of the Nerd Outcast. For Wesley Tanner and Cyril Fote,
yep,
I am your host, James Campbell, and tune in next time. Thanks.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.